Guys, to be honest, this is my favorite kind of review. All four of us hanging out. We've all played this game. This is one of the hottest takes around right now. It is Helldivers 2, boys. That's what we've been playing. Having a good time. And I'll leave it at that. There's a lot to dive into. There's definitely a lot to dive into and a lot to unpack, right, when you get into Helldivers 2. I think the biggest glaring issue right now, and I think is the biggest shock to Arrowhead, studio behind Helldivers 2, is the abundance of people trying to play that basically seized up the servers, right? Like our biggest issue right now is actually just trying to play the game. And
yeah, suffering from success they are.
Exactly. Yeah. Right? So it's kind of one of those things. How do you rate a game that the servers just don't really work for, right? How do you pick it apart? Well, honestly, the game did work. I didn't have too many issues. My issue now is that I can't get on. And that's just a matter of time before that's fixed. Does that affect the gameplay? No. Does it affect the game? It does at the moment, but it doesn't affect how I feel about the game. The servers at the end of the day will be back on eventually, right? And it's just one of those things. But
the thing is, how long would someone bounce to a different game though?
That's just it, Steve. That makes a very valid point, right? You got to come out. You got to come out swinging. You got to make sure people stick around. This is one of PlayStation's live service experiences.
Yeah,
it took off. Like it took off.
Yeah,
at a whole other level, right? So let's get into it, guys. Let's break it down. What's everybody's experience with it? Where are you guys at with it? How are you guys liking it? Steve, you opened it up first. Let's hear about it, buddy. What do you got?
It is a lot of fun. I mean, obviously, it is compared to another game that Scott and myself played, Starship Troopers, and it's obviously the alien bugs. And even though we both enjoyed that game, and I know I'm comparing it to this because it is very similar, is the issue we had was, would there be enough content to keep me engaged? And I'm actually having an issue now of doing the same thing over and over again. I'm losing interest. There's nothing new, there's nothing exciting. And I think what's more funny is the airdrops. When you actually, I think the more comical thing, the more I've seen, is people doing silly things of putting a marker on a player's head. And then when the airdrop comes down, it squishes them. Or, as we've experienced, Drew, of waiting for the extraction ship to come in and being too close to it and getting squashed by that as well. Or the door.
I get the samples.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that completely. Corey, where are you at with this one?
You guys know me. I love my shooters, whether it's first person or third person. You guys got into this a little bit earlier than I did.
Sure.
I'm just kind of catching up now. I think I'm like level 7 or 8. And honestly, I've been enjoying my time playing Helldivers 2. It's because it kind of took this whole gaming world by storm right now. I appreciate the fact that the devs have been very open about the fact that the server issue is their #1 priority. They actually just released, I believe, an update today or yesterday, just with some general kind of quality of life fixes, which is nice to see that's still rolling out. But they're very active on socials, letting their player base know. And you know what? It is capped at, I think, at about 450,000 people or something right now, which is not a lot. And for the amount of people that are playing this and the records it's breaking, it's constraining. It's tough. You know, if all 4 of us want to jump on right now, we might not all be able to get in at the same time. You may wait 20 minutes, Drew. I may wait 5 minutes. And that is taking away from the experience a little bit. But when you do get in and play with your friends, or even randoms that have mics, it is an absolute blast. I'm enjoying it. I've played through a bunch of the different missions now, whether it be up against the Termid or the automatons, and it's... For me, I'm really enjoying fighting against the robots. It feels like the opening scene from Terminator, you know? It's just, you know, it gives you that kind of movie
Judgment
vibe, that action feel. Exactly. And I think they've said even Starship Troopers, the actual movie, is regaining popularity just based on how popular this game has been. So, I mean, it's making its waves, and I think it's one of those things that as long as they keep the updates rolling, apparently mechs are going to be coming soon, which was part of Helldivers, the original game. So who knows if they can keep rolling these things out? If it's a live service game, like you said, Drew, that's the key, right? Keep everybody interested, because there's so many options out there. You can bounce out and go play Skull and Bones right now if you really wanted to, which is something all of us actually have been doing. Yeah. And you know that if that's a game that you can also get really involved in, and Helldivers is that direct competition right now because those are the two hot games, so they gotta keep it competitive right now.
Absolutely. Scott, where are you at?
Well, I think the only thing I want to address with the launch and the issues with server side is perhaps I'm not really sure how many people you should expect to jump in on a game week number 1, but not having that auto kick for inactivity, that's a glaring miss on their part there. So I want to just try and put that blemish aside and look at the game itself, and the game has, well, my imagination just swimming with different ideas that I see this being a combination of. ODST comes to mind, the Halo dropper, and then of course Starship Troopers. But this seems to hit in a way that both of those just didn't for myself. And this is, it has a bit of a unique flavor to it, but unique flavor, again, I'm not sure if that's the right term to use because it is a blend of a couple different ideas, but what it is fun so far. It'll be fun and frustrating, and then sometimes very funny. But my first takeaway, I think, from trying to play solo was that this is not a game for solo. This is absolutely a game for a whole squad of friends, maybe just 2 people. You can scrape through some of the missions, but some of them are incredibly hard, and that's going to be what pushes most players away from the start. I can see that getting really frustrating, but if you are able to stick with it, you can kind of find your groove amongst the team. And if you can't do that, I often find myself becoming the target of an orbital strike that also clears the objective. There are no sacrifices too big for democracy.
It's definitely been an interesting take, right? Everybody's been jumping on this one and having a good time. I've had a good time as well, but I'm up there with Steve. I'm tired of it. Like, it's just more of the same, right? Doesn't matter what you're fighting, whether it's the bugs or the automatons. At the end of the day, it just becomes so repetitive for me. I've reached a level that I'm just kind of starting to bounce out. So where is that refresh, right? We talked about this a lot off the air as to how long does this stick around in the spotlight. Server issues now becomes a major problem with keeping that spotlight going. But are we going to be talking about this game and still playing it in a month? I doubt it. I honestly doubt it, right? But for what we have played, Scott's right, play it with friends. That's the way to play Helldivers. That is when the chaos happens. And the most fun I've had in a very long time in a game comes with Helldivers 2, and just the amount of chaos that just spreads wild. I'm tossing in an orbital strike, my brother's in there, Scott's in there. I'm like, oh, my bad. Take those guys out, right? The helicopter, heliplane thing drops. I get squished by the door opening. Like, you just... things you don't think of are happening. Now, granted, I've ran into bugs besides the actual bugs that are in the game. I've had some issues, right? So all of a sudden, I roll up in this one area, and there's like this wing way across the screen, and I'm just going, I don't think that's supposed to be like that. It's just like, but I haven't experienced anything too crazy. You get out in the world though, and the world is just like, wow. The sun rays come beaming through. It is hard to see. The fog lifts up, and it's just like, wow, man, I can't see a dang thing around here. And it brings that level of tension. All of a sudden, whoosh, a swarm comes out of nowhere at you. It's like, wow, help! And then you call in the help, and then you get the orbital strike, and then you drop a turret. The premise of the game is simple. Go out, fend off the bugs, fend off the automatons, and then do it again. But that motion of rinse and repeat can only last for so long. The cool part is the grind. I know a lot of people, I got a lot of buddies that are playing it and they're hooked, and that grind is real. It is real for them. It is, okay, well, I don't have that orbital strike. That one would be cool. But then Corey's going to have this strike. So maybe if I go for that strike, and then we can have these and team up this way, then I'll bring in my turret, and then Steve can bring in a backpack. Right? Like, it's all just coordinating that goes on behind the scenes that gets you into the world, and all of a sudden, like, it just changes the gameplay. And I don't want to say every time is just like a fresh new take, because at the end of the day, it is just rinse, repeat. But it's never quite the same run, if that makes sense.
It always plays out different, right? It is unscripted because there's friendly fire, there's things we're using, new weapons, new stratagems. It's things we're learning as we go, right? So that's why we have 25 reinforcements to start these missions so that we can come back. And you know what? I love that forgiving aspect of it, but depending on the difficulty level you're playing at in this game, it can you can start wiping through those reinforcements quickly. And the nice thing is you'll always get reinforcements, but it's like a 2-minute timer once you use all of your lives. So that starts to become difficult because it's easy to get overwhelmed in this game. I feel like the mechanics of the game when it comes to the controls, just the way everything looks, it feels like you're playing in a movie, and it feels very smooth. Like you said, Drew, there's some visual bugs, but there hasn't been any game-breaking bugs. I'm not getting kicked out of matches. I'm not getting dropped. I'm being able to seamlessly join in with random people on their missions, and it's working really well, and that's something I enjoy because the fact that you can kind of go in and all 4 of us can be on the same ship, doing our own things, you know, setting our loadouts or whatever, then we can all pick where we want to go, then we all drop at the same time. Like, it's really cool. There's a lot, like you said, kind of that prefaces the whole battlefield aspect of the game. You're going to plan, you're going to strategize, you're going to figure out how your team composition is going to be, and that's, I think, where if you stay with this one is where you're really going to feel rewarded. But like you said, Drew, if you get caught up and you just don't necessarily feel like the rinse and repeat style of these missions, even though they are different, you are facing the same types of enemies, whether it's robots or bugs, it can wear on you. So I think that's where the real divide comes here.
I was going to agree with Scott when he said about the single player. I had a few goes. And
it's brutal.
It is so. I ended up running all the way around the map, basically, and they're all chasing me because obviously ammo is another issue as well. And when you're a single player, is finding the ammunition you need or grenades or anything to help you. It's hard to find when you're a single player, and I think it's going to lose a lot of fan base because of that. Because not everyone's got a group of buddies that can all hook up, and then if you're playing with randoms, obviously you might not necessarily mic or proximity chat. Do you know what I mean? And then they all seem to do their thing, and you do have to do your thing, kind of thing. Well, things so.
Now, Corey mentioned something that I want to highlight because it's sort of a window dressing on the actual matchmaking, but that's how you can look out of one ship and see all of the others in orbit. When somebody calls in a stratagem, you can actually see a stratagem leave their ship, and that does appear to be in real time. I think a lot of that is an animation just kind of playing out, does not really reflect what's going on, but it does give you that level of immersion now. It's a whole action. We're all working together. It's bigger than just myself and our 4-man squad. You know, everybody's doing their part. I love that. And the stratagems have to be my favorite part. To touch on something you said, Drew, it's that fun little mini game of inputting the things. And
that's cool.
What you said as well, Steve, when you're alone, you don't exactly have the time to input those.
No.
But it adds to that stress level, and it's hard to say, but I like being that level of stressed out. It's fun. And that grind for new stratagems, I'm the one on your friends list that's trying to get the next one, grinding all the way up to the next one. I want the biggest. I think I'm a Team Eagle for now, but I just like that call in because I get a good rush out of it, coordinating those strikes, and that's the real fun. But when it comes to turns of longevity, there is that grind. That grind could be extended with further updates. I'm not certain if we've seen a roadmap yet, or just that there is speculation. Of course, there will be one. But the 2 Terminids, automatons, there's a huge amount of space on the galaxy map for another 2 factions. And I think there is some lore that might point to a 3rd one, but I didn't play the first game. And regardless, there's just space for imagination. You can really add whatever you like to this game and keep it refreshed, keep it new. New planets. We haven't even pushed to the outer ring yet, but that all can be reset because the story is being played out through the actions of the entirety of everybody playing online. And I think that's really cool. Is there a storyline? I'm not sure if there really will be. We're on this planet. Has anybody thought, why are we bringing democracy to bugs? And also, how do they jump to other planets? Has anybody figured that out yet? Are they spacefaring? I have questions, but
All right, guys, all in all, I think we've had a great time playing Helldivers 2. The biggest fear, I think, in all of us, though, is the longevity of the game. getting rid of that rinse and repeat method is a struggle when it comes to a games of service model. And they fix that over at Arrowhead. Time will tell. But let's score it up, guys. Corey, I'm kicking it to you first. What are you scoring Helldivers 2?
You know what, I thought about this one because there are some issues, but I am having so much fun. And I think that's the point of playing video games, guys. This is why we do it, is to have fun. I've been having a blast. I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. And honestly, it's the immersion factor for me. I feel like I'm in an action hero in a movie with the audio, the graphics, the explosions. It's got everything for me. Like I said, 8 out of 10.
Nice. Not too bad at all. Steve, where are you at?
I'm giving this a 7.5. It is a lot of fun. It is brutal if you're a single player, so you got to make sure you got your crew with you to squad up and play this. Otherwise, it's pointless. You might as well just play something else. It's nightmare.
Fair enough. Scott, how about you, buddy?
I think that's a fair take, actually, but I'm ahead of both of you guys. I'm there at 8.5. I think this game has its issues. It absolutely does, but it's wearing it almost proudly. It's going to fix all these issues, at least I think it will, and that issue of longevity, I think that's really not that big of a worry. There's certainly the potential here to have this game last a very, very long time if it's handled well, and it has the mechanics behind it to keep that gameplay going. So for me, that is an 8.5, and action hero is a good way of describing it.
Absolutely. I'm there with Corey with an 8. Wrapping it up at the end of the day, this is some of the most fun I've had with a group in a very long time, right? Lately, I've been in such a single-player rush to get in with a group of friends and hang out and just laugh over just mindless incidents happening that you just can't predict. Like, it's just hilarious. Even when I'm playing with rando sometimes, I'm like, man, we're all laughing, right? Like, it's just that comic relief is hilarious. And the game doesn't take itself seriously. It knows what it is, and it's just built off of what essentially was a top-down Helldivers 1 to where they are today. And I think it's been a fantastic change and addition, but it's been a ton of fun. Again, we're a little bit worried about the longevity of the game. We'll see what the future holds. But yeah, at the end of the day, man, Helldivers 2, pretty fun time without a doubt. 8 for me.